Industry-shifting ideas can start from individuals or people committed to solving global and industry issues. This is your chance to network with experts and connect with a future collaborator at the London Blockchain Conference. Throughout history, significant innovations have resulted from successful collaborations. In 1903, brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright made it possible for us to achieve our dream of flying. In 1977, Steve Jobs' marketing flair and Steve Wozniak's engineering magic helped jumpstart the personal computer revolution. In 1990, Tim Berners-Lee worked with systems engineer Robert Cailliau to pave the way for the World Wide Web. The world would look very different without the innovations of these incredible collaborations. Come to the London Blockchain Conference, where visionaries like yourself convene and create value partnerships that could lead to future collaboration and the next world-changing solution.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I'm your host, Kurt Wuckert Jr. We are going to rush through the news and views of the day, taking Q&A from the troll box, which is, of course, where you preside, trolls. If you would be so kind as to put your questions, comments, blessings, cursing, scrapes, gripes, or gropes into the comment box, the delightful Mr. Alex Moon will filter through them. He'll place them in the box, and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about, my delightful guest. If you are watching and you have not, please do us the kindest of favors and like, subscribe, hit the alert bell so you know every time that we go live here on the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I would very much appreciate it if you would do so. And also, if you're watching live, please let your friends know. I'm gonna stop the radio man shtick. Let your friends know that we're live, because the beauty of live troll box conversation is that I gotta play a little jazz. Ooh, I think we heard that crack on the mic there. I gotta be ready. I gotta be nimble. I gotta be on my feet. Thankfully, I'm aerodynamic, and I'm here to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. What is this background noise? Do we hear background? Is this Mr. Moon terrifying me from the nethers, where from whence he came? So our executive producer, the delightful, this is like that late night. This is like what do you call it? The ladies man. Yeah, it's a lady. So okay. Mr. Moon is back. We did like 5 weeks in a row with Brandon filling in, which is great. I love Brandon. He's a now fellow Floridian, but I miss the good old days with Mr. Moon. So when Moon comes back, it's just like it's a delightful thing. So everybody, please give a round of applause to Mr. Moon. If you could start to spice up the comment box, people, if you have questions about literally anything, we can talk about anything. Obviously, we're going to talk about Bitcoin related. Brandon, I know you've been here longer, but is the adopted son any less of a son than that? I'm not going to go there. I really like it here. Okay, I like being a Floridian. Don't treat me like a second class Floridian. All right. So what is everyone eating for lunch today? That's a great question. So I have spent the last 4 days. I'm going to talk a little bit about my weekend while you fill in the troll box. And we really genuinely need you to fill in the troll box. Like, let us know what you want to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on with the court drama. Vel Freedman's been a little bit spicy on Twitter. We will talk a little bit about kind of my predictions. We'll talk a bit about like how business law works and what it's like to set up an LLC in Florida and some of that kind of thing. And then we'll talk about a number of others. Yeah, Mort asking, can we interview Vel today? You know what? if Vel's watching, Vel Freedman, so actually I'm gonna dial it back just a little bit because I want to be sincere here. I spent a decent amount of time, like sort of one-on-one, like it's not like we went out to dinner or anything, but there was a lot of off time during the Kleiman trial, like in between. So there was a break if I recall, it was something like every 2 hours we would take a bathroom break and a lunch break and all these things. But we were all kind of encapsulated largely because of the pandemic too. The pandemic made it weird as to like where you could go and some of this other stuff at the time. And so I think for the first, I don't know, maybe the first week, I don't think we actually said anything, but he came to me to kind of introduce himself and basically said he appreciated my live streams, like the sort of daily summaries that I was doing. And it was, at first brief, like, hey man, thanks, whatever. But then he kind of kept coming to talk to me, or he'd give me like a friendly nod in the morning. Like he would make a point of like saying hello, which I appreciated because obviously we're like, presumed to be enemies in this thing, which I think is also not necessarily, doesn't need to be the case anyways. But then he started making a point of coming over to talk, and he trains a little bit of jujitsu and some of these other things. So like we have a few things in common. And ultimately he was quite cordial. He was friendly. He made a point of like setting aside our differences and having like a friendly social relationship with me. So I would not be opposed to having Vel Freedman on the show. Now, would I have him on the show with no notice? Probably not to talk about the Kleiman case, because obviously he is a very particularly talented orator, negotiator, and argumentatist. I don't think that's a word, but I would likely get lost in the weeds or in the details or being unsure of what I do or do not know, given his experience level. Like I'm quite a talented debater, but this is a case he's been like 100% married to for years and years now. So he would have the ability to probably lose me in me not necessarily 100% sure of details. And he'd be a formidable foe. So I really will debate anybody. I will talk to anybody, but I have so much respect for Vel Freedman's ability to communicate and advocate and litigate that I would need to prepare myself for such an opponent. So, Vel, that's my endorsement of you, and also probably a lot where our agreements or our cordialities would end on the case, given that I think we disagree heartily about the details. So. Again, queue up those questions. I see a comment from my friend Dan, who I visited over the weekend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my weekend while you fill the troll box. I flew to Chicago, and it wasn't, it was cold, which reminded me why I like South Florida, like snowing cold. So when I left Florida, it was 85 degrees. And when I landed at O'Hare Airport, it was like 30 and windy and brutal. And so that was not a lot of fun. And then Dan came and picked me up. Dan is a friend and a colleague, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy. So he's a guy in the Bitcoin economy, and he's a guy in the jiu-jitsu space. And he brought me into his fold a little bit to hang out with him and his friends and do some jiu-jitsu. Well, I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Like I'm pretty good at this. I'm also quite a big guy. And I don't get a ton of rounds with people that are like a lot more talented than me and a lot tougher than me. And in many cases in better shape. Like there's obviously people that are one of those three things, like tougher, stronger, fast, whatever, or more talented. And Dan's all of those things. So he's a world champion grappler. So I think I'm gonna like do my cute stuff. And like I have never been tapped out so effortlessly so many times successively and not be able to solve that puzzle. So it was really good for the jiu-jitsu. And really good at teaching my ego to say, you know what, there's levels to this thing. So that was my weekend. Had a really good time. Then recorded some stuff in Milwaukee. Did a bunch of stuff, like talk colleagues, saw an old friend, or saw a few old friends actually. And so it was a really good time. But I'm really glad to be back in Florida. It was like 90 degrees this morning, so I'm back in the Hawaiian shirt, reminding myself, here's why I do it. Here's why I'm here. Let's check the private chat. What do we got going on? Mr. Moon's got 13 questions. So let's start banging them out. I have talked about my weekend, talked about my dear friend Vel Freedman, and did my Radio Man voice for a few minutes. So that's the best I can do. Let's start with the questions. This is a good one. What are some examples of Unwriter's work in use today? Is Atlantis still around and active? So I haven't been in the Atlantis Slack in probably a year. So I don't recall if I don't think it's been turned off. I think I would have heard some tiers if the Atlanta Slack went away. But actually, quite a bit of Unwriter stuff is in use today, but not so much his infrastructure. So Unwriter did two major things. One was set up nodes and endpoints that would use his software. So his software was used for serving data in all these other in many ways. So this is things like Bitbus, for example, is a thing that a lot of people used for a very long time. It was sort of the inspiration for Jungle Bus as a base concept, but it was implemented completely differently in Jungle Bus. But Bitbus was a cool idea. It was an idea that needed to exist, in my opinion. So we had a few of things like that where you would ping the API and he had software on the back end that was doing a thing. The other thing that he did was defining protocols for various things. So the B protocol, for example, was a set of logic that he just hoped everyone would agree to use. And if everybody agreed to use it, well, then you could standardize B across all kinds of things and you could start to build a network graph of predictable stuff. This is how the internet is built today. So like JPEG, for example, is something that probably all of us are at least a little bit familiar with. And you know what to expect of a JPEG. A JPEG is a photo or an image of some sort, or I guess it could be an image of non-photographic art, but I think you know what I mean. It's some sort of visual image protocol. And then you can have software that's built into your website that is designed simply to display a JPEG. And so when you have that logic, it makes it very easy to have like a standardized modular way to build all kinds of things. And so what Unwriter did was try to define a bunch of logic for lots of those things. But like the B protocol is just one example. There's frankly, maybe even dozens out of Unwriter. So from a software standpoint, a little bit of his software is still up and supported, which means he's like very quietly still supporting his endpoints. But the protocol stuff is used quite a bit. So we're seeing a mix of things like B, mixed with stuff like MAP, which is the Magic Attribute Protocol, and other things that are in defined schemas. You can check out bitcoinschema.org for some of the things that have grown out of that. And that includes like the one Sat Ordinals protocol and some other stuff. So basically, Unwriter's memory is still there. We still use some of his ideas, but increasingly we are no longer using his software or his endpoints. So yeah. Describe the Lightning Network in one sentence. Use metaphors if needed. Man, one sentence. L. McMurphy. Let's see. The Lightning Network in one sentence. Lock your Bitcoins in this wallet, reissue them on this other network, and trade them across an abacus to drug dealers and settle them when you want, or maybe never. Lightning Network. Yeah, that's it. Next one. Betting sports website on BSV soon, more than NFL and basketball. I don't know. I am the worst person to talk to about sportsing. I literally only consume combat sports. So one of the other things that I did when I was in Milwaukee, I went and saw Anthony Pettis fought Roy Jones Jr. So legendary UFC champ and WEC, if I recall, fighting against legendary like 3-class boxing champion Roy Jones Jr. And it was not the most exciting fight in the universe because Roy Jones is 50. I don't know. Gosh, he's going to be 55 years old. So he was very, hands up defensive. It was really fun watching him do his kind of duck and weave. That was kind of a lot of fun. And Alex Moon says he's 54. Man, pretty good guess. Roy Jones Jr., 54. And so it was fun to watch. Anthony was also exciting, but Anthony, a world-class fighter and a world-class boxer. There's a lot of crossover on that Venn diagram, but there's also stuff that world-class boxer in a boxing match is going to be very, 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 very hard to put away. And Pettis made it look good. I mean, he had a really good boxing style, and Anthony always does this really explosive thing where he hooks and angles. He's got very, very, very fast footwork that you kind of can't even see what he's doing. So he's very explosive like that. But man, Roy Jones Jr. is maybe got probably top 10 guys in the world as far as boxing experience goes. So it was fun to watch. It was a spectacle, and ultimately it was a pretty good show. But when it comes to sports, otherwise, I don't watch the NFL. I don't watch baseball, football, soccer. I just kind of don't care. So sorry, not your sports ball guy. As for apps on the network, I because I don't care, I'm also kind of not paying attention. So if I saw something that would excite a lot of people, I'd probably just gloss over it. So my apologies. All right, Kurt, please talk about the news around HandCash and Rockwallet. I don't know if there was news today that I've missed. Please let me know what's up. Rockwallet is, I know some things that are going on at HandCash and Rockwallet, but if there's something I missed, please give me more details. HandCash just made the announcement on Friday that they are going to be supporting one Sat Ordinals protocol, which is basically a mix of concepts in colored coins that are based on the BTC Ordinals protocol, but refined nicely to use some of the superlatives of BSV. Check my private chat here. Yep. And so yeah, so they made the announcement they're going to be supporting one Sat Ordinals protocol, which to date has been the most rapid uptake protocol in the BSV space. Every wallet has cared about having kind of their own walled garden. So there was like RelayX used Run, and HandCash supported Run through their SDK. But then there was kind of the only two from like just a wallet standpoint. And then if you went over to Money Button, they were only simple Fabric tokens. And then if you went over to various other wallets, it just kind of didn't work. So instead of using the network effect of everybody working together, everybody sort of had their own siloed thing. Oh, that was the other one, is Twetch. Twetch had their sigil, I believe it's sigil protocol that create Twonks tokens, as I recall. And so it just kind of made it that instead of us working together and using like a global liquidity, that just wasn't happening. And then you had this mix of like, hey, Stas is simpler, let's all move to Stas maybe. And then a lot of the engineers looked at it and said, these scripts are really, really big, and that causes us other problems. And then basically people looking at Ordinals protocol on BTC and saying, this is like really simple and really elegant. And a bunch of people jumped in and came together to work on it. So I think it probably originated with Nick, the founder of IM, who I interviewed 3 weeks ago along with David Case. So Nick hired David, basically said, hey, let's bang out a variation on the Ordinals protocol so that we can do this token project. Tokens with art. Like, it was very art centric, the IM application. And so then from there, it just it ballooned. I mean, we've seen contribution from people from most of the wallets in the space. And then even the people that are typically a little bit adversarial were like, hey, this is actually pretty cool, I'd love to help contribute. And there was even a mix of people from like the Bitcoin Association who were like, yeah, I'll do a little bit of this on some of my own time. And now we've got a bunch of people making announcements that like, yeah, we're just going to go along with that. It seems like a really good thing. We really like it. It's elegant. It's easy to implement. And it's been a really cool thing. So that's all I know about what HandCash announced that they're jumping on, and they're the most used wallet in the space. As for Rockwallet, they're doing like the on-ramp thing, probably the off-ramp thing soon too. We're trying to get them booked to have an interview to really talk about what their roadmap is and what's going on over at Rock. So pretty excited about that too. They are good people. Will Rockwallet or HandCash ever integrate card support for point of sale? I really wish they would. HandCash used to back in the day. So like one of the really interesting first things they had, what do they call it? It had a catchy name too, but they deprecated it for a while because they sort of re-engineered the whole way that their wallet works. And it came back without the point of sale, but I think you could bootstrap and build your own point of sale really easily using HandCash Pay or HandCash Connect. They've got like really nice SDK tools and really nice docs too. So if anybody out there understands point of sale, let's bang some of that stuff out. That'd be pretty cool. So kind of a big fan. Let's take another one. Sip of coffee. What features are wallets missing today? I think a lot of the problem with wallets in general is the fact that like the word wallet is a little bit confusing. Like what it actually is, it's key management for unlocking and signing coins. Like you're just asking your private keys to add a signature to the end or to the last signature that's sitting in your wallet and broadcasting it. But people think of it as like coins in your wallet. And so people fundamentally think of tokens as like just other coins in your wallet and some other things. And for whatever reason, everybody has a focus on either doing coins really well or tokens really well, or doing like in HandCash's case, like doing like fiat values really well. So like having like, hey, I have $50 in my HandCash and it says $50. And maybe people don't care how many coins that is. And the response to that is maybe. I think nobody's really done it right. We certainly haven't taken over the world with any of these wallets, but I think utilization of open protocols is crucial. Like I think as a first standard, it's like everybody does one or two things really well, but then they kind of ignore the fact that like, hey, there might be some value over here. And if we just give the ability for people to interact with it, it might be a really good thing. And so like I requested when HandCash just asked recently, hey, what can we do better in our wallet? And it's like, well, I have a couple of business entities and my personal entity. And so for my HandCash handle is Kurt. But for example, I also control the Gorilla Pool HandCash wallet. And so I have to do kind of a wonky login thing to switch. And it's like, it's okay. I'm not going to not do it, but it also is a 2-minute process or, maybe a 1.5-minute process instead of just me being able to sort of maybe like long press and then drag the tab over to use my other wallet. So something right there, it would just be like my business and my personal that are very, very trivial to go between. And then maybe like a color change. So like maybe my main profile is green, like your typical HandCash, but my business profile is gold. So, just so there's some visual cue that I'm not, not mixing them up and then I send payment from the wrong wallet or something like that. And then I think the other thing is just very careful integration with tokens and other things. There's lots of apps. Like there are lots and lots of things. I think HandCash does their app store. I know that's a dirty word if you're in the Apple world, but in the App Store, they do the App Store thing quite well. And I'd like to see more people just keep kind of integrating. Like, why are we not all integrating with each other? If we build on open standards, like it shouldn't matter what email client you have because email all speaks the same language. So whether you use, Outlook or Gmail or whatever, we should get roughly the same experience because we used open protocols. So I want to see more people looking for ways to cooperate and break down their own silos just because it just creates more opportunity. And I think a lot of that must start at the wallet level. So that's my take on that. Google Play Store has HandCash and Rockwallet. I would assume so, but I'm not sure as I am an iPhone user. Next one. Why is Elon advertising Doge on Twitter? I hope it's not a surprise to people who watch the show often, but I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk. I wouldn't say that I hate him. Like, I don't think that he's awful, but I also really dislike his sort of trolly pump and dump. Like he knows that if he's cheeky about something, that he's going to get a big bump out of it. Like we've seen him do it with Tesla stock. We've seen him do it with Bitcoin. We've seen him do it with Doge. And like, it's really frustrating to me because first of all, it undermines anything good that might come out of his work. And there is, obviously some fruit there, but it makes it really hard to take him seriously. Now, in some ways, like it's fun. Doge is fun. I don't have anything necessarily negative to say about Doge. In fact, I like the memes. I like the coin that grew from the memes. And then I like the memes about the coin that was based on the memes. But when it comes to like this weird pump and dump culture, like it's really irritating that a SVG or a PNG of a damn dog logo is going to make the price go up 30% inside of a couple minutes. And so it's just kind of it's irritating. It's immature. He knows it's obviously going to happen. Who knows what he's going to do? Is he going to integrate Doge tipping? Maybe. We'll see. But ultimately, I think people give Elon too much credit, and then it makes him cocky, and then he does stuff like this. So that's where I'm at on that. Next one, please. What does Ordinals mean for all other token protocols in BSV? We don't really know. Here's the thing. Stas is really good at things. And Run is actually still really good at things. If you're going to try to do tokens that have like state or simulated state and programmability, like Run tokens are still pretty cool for that. We also don't really have a great fungible token protocol that I have ever seen. So let's say I wanted to issue Kurt coin that is not an NFT. Like maybe I want to issue 1 billion Kurt coins, and that's the only money that I accept for payment to Kurt. Now, I honestly, at a glance, like my first thought is, I don't know what I would do or what I would use to do that, because we really haven't seen a great fungible token protocol on BSV or really any version of Bitcoin at all. Bitcoin Cash has their cash token protocol, which I admittedly haven't taken a very good look at in quite some time, but there might be something interesting there. I think that's a fungible token protocol, if I recall. I remember what do they call it? The Spice. Did they call it? Was it Coin Spice? I was going to say, was it the Spice Boys podcast? But no, their show is called, wait, I just said it. It was Coin Spice. And they had Spice tokens that they would hand out. And I think it was, I think they were a fungible token, and I think it was a cash token protocol. So I would need to double check. I admittedly haven't looked at this in now probably 3 or 4 years. So I could be wrong about all of those things that I just said, but I think I think there's something there. There's something we need for fungible tokens. But Ordinals, I think Ordinals could be really, really great for really low level NFTs. And so NFTs people think of as just JPEGs, but they're not just JPEGs. In fact, the JPEGs are like the least interesting part at scale. They're a lot of fun right now, but ultimately an NFT can be like an access token, or it can be literally your car tokenized as a digital twin, or it can bootstrap like a completely open global social media client. Like there's lots of stuff that you can do with very, very simple low level tokens that we haven't really seen. Now, are they just going to absorb everything? Maybe, but probably not. We've seen token protocols persist. Maybe there's a company that just needs a token that can't look like Ordinals for some reason, and then they have to have their proprietary system, and it ends up being 20% of the network for the next 100 years. Like this is reality. I don't think anybody's just going to completely swallow everything else, at least not quickly. Question. Are you seeing more BSV Ordinals interest due to TX limitations on BTC? I'm not sure yet, but we are seeing some complaints about transaction limitations on BTC and an increasing pace. So the Ordinals on BTC just pushed out the BRC20 standard, which I think is a fungible token aspect that requires yet another level of indexing to work properly. And the volume is obviously causing fees to rise on BTC. And then you've also got the hyper toxic, run your own nodal nonsense people, the laser people, the toxic small blockers that are really, really looking for ways to screw with the Ordinals protocol entirely. So it's possible that at some point, like the small blockers figure out how to get rid of the Ordinals people entirely, in which case they'll be looking for somewhere else to go. There's definitely been a little bit of cross-pollination. Like I have talked to some people that are looking at both protocols, but I don't know if anyone has like minted on both. I think one exception you can look at is I have talked to the Twetch guys just a little bit. Now, Twetch built ordinalswallet.com, which is one of the most used BTC Ordinals wallets. And I think they've done quite well with it because it started as just a viewer and then it was a wallet. Now it's got like marketplace tools built in, and they iterated on that all pretty quickly. And so I know they're also looking currently at the one Sat protocol. And so they would be they were already cross-pollinated that direction. So maybe they'll cross-pollinate back. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. Be warned. What needs to come out of the ordinal stuff to make people realize BSV means business? If I knew, if I knew, I'd be doing it. So I think the interesting thing about all of this is there's this like base assumption that like BTC is gold and LTC is silver, Litecoin is silver. And that's just a meme that sticks in people's heads. So if you're new and you don't really have a political opinion, like this is one of those axioms that gets passed along. And I think we're still looking at a situation where this stuff just kind of takes time. You need to explain to people why something is a good idea and why something is valuable. They need to actually see what's important. And if just trading is important, then the only real thing is the only real thing that matters is liquidity. Like if it's just about the dollars, if you just want dollars out of the situation, then you need liquidity more than you need anything else. That like the technology is a little bit irrelevant at that point. And that's what BTC has more of than anything in the blockchain economy. So when it comes to meaning business, I mean, we're looking at volume. Like we believe that volume of transactions matters more than anything. We don't know. Like we don't know yet. I still think of every blockchain as fundamentally in beta. Now BSV is, from a protocol standpoint, we're talking about like set in stone. There's not going to be any, broad changes, no undermining what Bitcoin is or any of that stuff. But what we don't know is, what does it look like when 1 billion people a day use a blockchain? Like we aren't anywhere near close enough to that. But what I do know is that if any blockchain ever wins that, it's either going to be BSV or it's going to be a blockchain that had to build itself in the direction so that it looks and functions and acts like BSV. So if you don't like us now, you're going to love us later. James Ruff, hello, sir. Can you talk briefly about why, as individuals, we should or should not get involved in mining BSV, or why even buying some BSV over time is beneficial? Let's leave this question up so I can re-reference it as I have my stream of consciousness. So, as individuals, see, I might argue that perhaps as individuals, unless you're, let me back up. If you need the money that you're going to put into anything Bitcoin related, BSV or anything blockchain related, if you need that money back inside of 5 years, I would argue you're not in a position to be investing in basically any of it. And so when we talk about it as individuals, I would hope that this isn't like, certainly not credit card. I hope it's not coming from your checking account. Maybe you could put money in from your savings account, but really what I'd like to see is people that like have an LLC that is designed to do a little bit of extra business. Like you have a risky aspect of your portfolio, because I really see Bitcoin not so much as an investment in the same way that you would as gold. But instead you have a view about it like it's business. It's a business opportunity. So maybe the same way that you might like buy a franchise or something. So when you start to mine, when you get an ASIC miner, it cash flows. It will pay you out the first day that you turn it on, and that's a good thing. It's a depreciable asset. So when you do your taxes, you can depreciate certain kinds of assets. This can be like commercial vehicles or computers or other office equipment or larger industrial machines, like anything that is a large thing there you can depreciate. So you are, I see a follow-up question here from James Ruff too, saying I'm talking about from an investment perspective into the technology. Yes, from an LLC, for example. So you should think of it as an infrastructural investment. So treat it like if you were to go back to, let's say, like the early to mid 90s and you wanted to get involved in the internet boom. Like there were a few ways to do this. You could try to make a startup like, Amazon or pets.com or something like that. But you could also get involved from an infrastructure standpoint and like start an ISP. There was an era of time where in a lot of major populated areas, there was not an ISP that could do anything other than I mean, initially it needed to be dial-up, but that would typically come from your phone company. But as we moved into broadband and other high-speed internet tools, like you could start an ISP that offered T1 internet, for example, or you could start fiber or whatever else, and then you could be the service provider in that local area to where the internet is actually coming from your node to a region. And so now you're commercially involved in giving the internet to people, and people are paying you for access to that service. Mining is a little bit like that. So your ASIC is solving not puzzles. I hate when people say that mining is about solving puzzles, but what like the pool will send you a hash table and you're helping us brute force and look for a valid hash. And as you do that, you are participating in it with us to secure the network, to help us build blocks, to help us perpetuate BSV in such a way. And for that, you get paid. Now, from just dollars in, dollars out, like the cost of electricity versus your income, it should be, because we're in a bear market, it's kind of a break-even thing. Like you might lose $10 a month and you might earn $10 a month, but it's not going to be, from a pure dollar standpoint, it's not going to be particularly profitable during a bear market. However, the machine, if you buy it during a bear market, should also go up in value in a bull market. So you might be able to buy a machine for $3,000, mine with it for 2 years, get a bunch of coins out of it, and then sell that machine for, if the price of the coin is up by 10x, the machine might be worth like 3x. You might be able to resell a used machine for 7, 8, 9 grand. I have seen this many, many, many times. Wow, I've seen it 3 times. So 3 bear to bull cycles that has worked really well. And at that case, you're basically getting your dollars back on the machine plus profit. And then you're also getting virgin coins that you have mined, which in a bull market are worth a whole lot more money. So that's kind of the investment thesis. This is what you're being pitched with, like the opportunity on ASICs. Yeah, and that's it. So over time, sure, that's beneficial. The concept on BSV, like if you're just buying BSV as an investment, you are presuming that at some point the demand for BSV will be higher because startups and growth stage companies require BSV within their companies. And if you're a guy that bought some at $35, maybe you'll be selling them at $3,000 in 10 years or something. That's the goal. That's what anybody in the blockchain space is looking to do. Like the guys that are buying Ethereum think they're investing in credits to utilize Ether in the global computer that is Ethereum. Like that's the concept. By all means, do your own research, talk to a financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor, but that's the general idea there. So thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Steve Rainbow. Oh no, it's Steve Rabinow. I'm sorry. Your name is not funny. I'm an idiot. So how can anyone tell whether any particular change to the code is or isn't part of the Bitcoin protocol in an objective and verifiable way? This is a very good question. Okay, so this is unfortunately going to be a little bit philosophical. So the word protocol can be used as a definition for what software is utilizing. So software is being told to enforce rules. No, software are rules, right? This is sort of if this, then that logic. But they can also be implementing rules that are not necessarily defined in the software. Like, so an idea in Bitcoin is that there are 21 million coins, right? Now, that's not something that appears in the white paper, which is where I would tell someone generally to start. Like, if you're not sure if a concept is a Bitcoin concept, start by reading the white paper. What does the white paper say about it? Well, if 21 million coins is something that you think is very important, and it is something that is very important to essentially all Bitcoiners, or at least all the ones that I can think of, then you come to realize, wait, why didn't Satoshi talk about that in the white paper? And that is a curiosity. If it mattered so much, why wasn't it defined there? Well, Satoshi was more defining the problem. He was saying, we propose Bitcoin as a solution to the double spend problem, inflationary currency, blah, 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 a lot of other things. So when it comes down to the code, a change in code, okay, I think one thing that we can do to help make that definition easier is that, are we redefining a clear definition of Bitcoin by this change? So in the white paper, Satoshi, he says we, again, the royal we, presumably, we define a coin as a chain of digital signatures. It's a very easy thing. So like when you send a Bitcoin transaction, you're using your private key to generate a new signature and add that to the chain of digital signatures. And that's now where the coin is. That's the coin. The coin is the chain of signatures, right? And so this is why SegWit was very, very controversial. A guy named Peter Risen talked about this quite a bit, and he explained why, in his opinion, a SegWit coin was not a Bitcoin. And he made a compelling argument. I don't know if it's true, just the same way that, like, I've never shaken hands with Jesus, but a lot of people believe he's true, and perhaps he is. And so with SegWit, the way SegWit works is there's basically a secondary Merkle tree that houses hashes of witness data. And what witness data is a sort of cryptographic attestation that a signature exists, but it is not the signature itself. And so now we're saying, okay, if there's a SegWit coin in there, it is a chain of digital signatures and a chain of hashes that are witness to the existence of digital signatures. And so now that's a little bit different. And so I would argue that in that case, it is very clear that there has been a change to the protocol because of that change to the software. Now, there can also be all kinds of, like, you can rewrite, there are things like just your basic syntax, or I don't know if you're a software developer, if you're like a high-level software engineer, you're probably not asking me because you are curious, but asking me because you want to make a sound clip about how dumb I am. And so that'll be fun. But if you you have syntax, or essentially like you can paraphrase yourself, like you can write a set of code that looks like X, or you can write a set of code that looks like Y, and they just have different grammar because they were written by different people, but they still functionally do the same thing. So this is like a decent paraphrase, or a good paraphrase between two really good translators of a book that was written initially in Italian, and now there's an English version. And like both are very, very fair interpretations, but they're going to be different because we're different. And so from a software standpoint, some things are just that. They're syntax. They don't actually change the nature of what is occurring underneath. It's just a different way to get there. Now, if get there is, I just want something to land in my wallet and I don't care how it gets there, then the things that occur are potentially problematic. We're seeing this with the Ordinals debate, where like you have people saying, hey, if it's a valid Bitcoin transaction, it's valid. And you got Luke Dash Jr. saying, no, it's not valid. You are using a scam that uses some of the quirks of SegWit and Taproot to just upload all kinds of stuff that isn't allowed on the chain. And so it's pretty difficult to define, because even among groups of small blockers and even among groups of big blockers, we will have a disagreement about what things are just passe or what things are just completely unbreakable religious and moral laws. So like I said at the beginning, the response is a little bit philosophical. I'm gonna leave it there. Next one. Are there any coins on the market which require renewable power to be used for their processing and mining? Require at what level? That's typically going to be a social requirement. And I think it was, I think it's important to point out that most Bitcoins, so this is BTC, BCH, BSV, and whatever, are mined with renewable resources. And there's a reason for that. We have a huge economic incentive to do the green thing, because the green thing is typically the efficient thing, which means it's typically the more profitable thing. In my opinion, problems of climate, or problems of the tragedy of the commons, for example, are solved by capitalism. I need to have an incentive to actually do something. Like, how do we fix the oceans? Well, the ocean is too big of a thing for me to deal with, so we need to deal with it as a collective. But who's in charge of deciding how to deal with them as a collective? Who owns the ocean? So if we figured out a way to maybe make a grid pattern, and we should probably do that in hexagons. So let's break the ocean into hexagons and sponsor them. So you can be in the, hey, welcome to the Atlantic Ocean, sponsored by Pfizer or something. I probably shouldn't have picked such a contentious brand, but they are the kind of company that can afford such a thing. So, but imagine that if you were in a portion of the ocean, like as you're traveling, like this part of the ocean brought to you by Budweiser, king of beers. And it was the nicest part of the ocean because Budweiser's reputation was on the line for it. Now, I know this is a little bit of a crass comparison, but somebody's got to take ownership of taking care of these things. And Bitcoin actually gives you a way to take ownership of your energy consumption. And that's crucial. It's a really important thing that, hey, if I'm just more and more green equals more and more efficient equals more and more profitable, that's good for the bottom line. And Bitcoin creates an incentive for us to pursue greener and greener energy. As for like coins that require it, I don't know of a coin that has some social or protocol level requirement for the type of energy that it consumes. But thank you for the question. Next one. Do you have any concern that a high percentage of BSV will never make it into the ecosystem as they may be owned by individuals, Bitcoin whales, that prefer another blockchain? No, that doesn't matter to me at all. Each Bitcoin is made up of 100 million Satoshis. And so even if it's like 10% of the existing supply, we're still talking about up into the multiple, like hundreds of trillions. Yeah, I think it's hundreds of trillions of individual sats would still be in circulation. So plus you can also open payment channels, and plus you can also tokenize secondary assets and things like that. So no, like the scarcity stuff, I don't ever really see as like as a threat to Bitcoin, its function. And then the scarcity aspect of it, like, hey, half of all Bitcoin's been burned forever. That's the thing that everybody says is the most valuable. Right? Like if there's only one Bitcoin and everybody needs it, then it's like $1 trillion a coin at that point, right? So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Next one. Holy cow, we only have like 11 minutes left. Why does it seem like everyone in the blockchain Bitcoin space likes to fight? Well, they like to fight on the internet because they are typically software engineers and beta males, and they like to use their brawn at the fingertips to do that. People like to bicker. They like to argue. I've not met a lot of people in the Bitcoin space that actually like to fight. So no, I'm being a little bit cheeky there, but no, it's honestly because it's like philosophy. It really has a lot to do with, the same reason there's like 500 denominations of Christianity. Like if you were to go talk to an atheist who was raised with like very little context about what Christianity is, and you had to explain the difference between like the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox and Lutherans and Presbyterians, like let's talk about all their similarities and then the things that divide them. Like it literally comes down to like, wait, so you agree about 98% of things, but you don't like the hats that the other people wear, or wait, if you put a drum set on stage, you're a completely separate denomination. It's stuff like that. But when you really care deeply about a thing and it's about some deeply held personal belief, then somebody's other big idea or even their little idea can be very, very vexing. 9 questions, 9 minutes, 1 question per minute. Alex Moon, go. Am I the only one seeing more and more new BSV faces and fans? You are not the only one. We have seen a lot of growth thanks to the meetup outreach being done by various people in various places. I'll take a little bit of credit for anything happening in South Florida for reaching out to people. But there's been a big growth in a few places. We've also seen a lot of people in the Philippines, so much that the people have decided that there is a conspiracy theory that the Lightning Sharks agency must be hiring sock puppets. Lightning Sharks is a marketing agency, and they do like 3 things. They do like branding stuff and conference stuff. No room for like weird nonsense. But there's a lot of people in the Philippines. So there's like offices out there. And so there's lots of people there using BSV, and then it spreads through their families. And in the Philippines, people tend to have big families and close families. So if somebody says, hey, check me out on Haste Arcade, very quickly it's 1 kid to 12 kids to, you go exponential. 12 kids tell 12 kids. There's 144 people in Manila playing Haste Arcade. I shared a tweet from, what's the kid's name? I forget. She was adorable. She was doing really well with the game she's playing. And then when you see that, especially like if you know about the exchange rate in the Philippines, like, hey man, you earn like $1, like that goes a long way for a teenager in a place like the Philippines. So that gets very exciting. And then you see the explosion. So get out there and let people know. Next question. We're rushing, not Russian. How can BSV recession proof someone's business? That's a hard one, especially with only 1 minute. So I don't know about recession proof. In my opinion, like the tools in your business are not necessarily the thing that is going to be recession proof. If you look at the businesses that are recession proof, it's typically healthcare, energy, and vice. And by vice, I mean like junk food, pornography, drugs, and alcohol and tobacco. Okay. So maybe then ask yourself, how can BSV help make those things more accessible, have less friction or whatever else? But ultimately it comes down to business. If you are really, really good at doing business and you can build your business during a recession, you're going to feel very recession proof. But ultimately for established players, recessions just happen. So I don't know about recession proofing specifically, but adding efficiency to your business is always going to be a good thing. So things like tracking, attestation, if you can sell something for more money because you can prove 100% like every single step that it could, then all of a sudden your widget is worth a little bit more than the widget that has no real provenance. Like that's great. So stuff like that. Next question. What are your thoughts on Dfinity ICP? I would say they are the biggest threat to BSV. So they're largely an Andreessen Horowitz vehicle. Andreessen Horowitz is famous for investing in lots and lots of things every single year. They throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. If anything sticks, they do really well with it. But like 90% of the things that launch out of Andreessen Horowitz end up falling apart. From a technical standpoint, I don't know a ton about ICP, but the numbers that I've seen, I don't find particularly impressive. If it doesn't function in script at the top and the UTXO model at the bottom, when it tinkers with global state, I have not seen anything with global state that actually scales. Now, Brenton Gunning, formerly of Run, he's got an L1 blockchain called Aldea coming out. And I think he said he's good for like 10 million transactions a second right now, or at least he was in a testing environment. We'll see. But I don't know. It's one of those things like, fine, make your claims, but until we see it, I don't know. Do you remember CSW talking about PSO way back? Particle swarm optimization. This is outside of my pay grade. Next question. Sorry. Quick recap of trade window news, please. It means TW gets free or protected patent use, right? As I understand it, it's something like that. I'm basically up to date on the headline version of that. Yeah, but it looks like this is going to be one of those like Kristen Ager-Hansen deals. Like that guy's got lots of business connections out there, and it seems like he's picking up the phone and saying, hey guys, remember me? You've got a month or two to integrate BSV into your business in some way. Like figure it out, which is really cool way to make stuff happen. Next one, please. With the Sat Ordinals protocol, could BSV go to $1 and win because of flow and volumetrics of the network usage? I think it's just a useful thing, and useful things create the opportunity to make profitable useful things. And if they're profitable, then there's going to be more profit seekers, and more profit seekers bring more efficiency, and more efficiency brings more competition and entrepreneurship. And ultimately, that's what victory looks like. Entrepreneurs will build the victory, so go build a cool thing. Next one. I don't understand Taproot. Using ordinals and it connected to BSV. All of it keeps evolving. So Taproot is like a compression and standardization technology. So what Taproot is doing in BTC is makes it that it doesn't matter, like if it's a basic pay to public key hash transaction, like your basic Bitcoin transaction, or if it's some kind of much more complex script, if you use a Taproot wallet to generate it, the hash that comes out on the other end it's not obvious what it is. So with SegWit, for example, you'll get the addresses start with like a 3, or they can start with a BC, depending on like I think that's a Bec32 address in BTC, if I recall. But a legacy Bitcoin address always starts with 1. Like this is what we're familiar with in BSV. But so they've got all these software protocols that do all these different things. But with Taproot, it's always a randomized thing. So you can't tell if it's a very simple transaction or a very complex transaction. And then on the back end, it works as a sort of a compression technology in that it can standardize large things all into like a one-size thing. And then it also tinkers with fee rates and some of this other stuff, and combined with SegWit that also allows you to calculate block weight instead of block size. It's kind of subsidizing a specific thing over on that side too. That's the very, very, very short version of that. Funny, BSV doesn't have Taproot or SegWit, so you cannot put ordinal data in witness data. So it all works a little bit different in BSV, but just think of it as a colored coin. There's a colored coins video from like 2013 that explains what you can do with a Bitcoin. Check that out. And that's actually a pretty good spot to figure out what Ordinals is. So also the docs page at One Sat Ordinals is really good. So it's docs.onesatordinals.com, and it kind of explains in brief, and then it shows you like the protocol, and then it shows you code examples. So it's a pretty good spot. I think you'd really appreciate it, given that you are a talented developer. Next question, please. When will the flippening happen, and at what price? I don't know about the price. I think it's price isn't profitability. I think the issue is profitability. Like we will see hash power make its way to BSV when it's more profitable to mine BSV. Now it's more profitable to mine BSV in a couple of situations where the price doesn't change or goes down. Like if the price is $5, but we're mining petabyte-sized blocks, then you're making hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of dollars per block, because there's thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of coins worth of fees in the block. So that's something to consider. There is that hash power flippening could be a different thing. Like, what is Bitcoin? Things are not just about the price. A price is sort of a lagging indicator as to what is Bitcoin, but ultimately the what is Bitcoin question is more than any one thing. It's a broad spectrum thing. I could see. I don't think it'll actually play out that way. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be a price thing. It could be a thing where they're both. I think in Bitcoin Cash and BTC era 2017, they were both right around $9,000 each for a few moments before trading got halted. So it could be something like that. But I don't know. We don't know until we know. Next question. When Florida Citadel party? We do them all the time. Check out our meetup page. So if you go to Bitcoin_Florida on Twitter, I think it's that. Yeah, Bitcoin Florida. Yes. Bitcoin Florida with an underscore in the middle on Twitter. We've posted the meetup link a whole bunch of times. So join our meetup page. And if you join the meetup page, you can subscribe to information. Like you can check our simple meetups or our Bitcades or our hackathons or our workshops. We do all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out. Wouldn't the price crash even more if transaction processors get thousands of BSV per block in the fees? No, I don't think so. It really is irrelevant to the price. Like the price of the coin is not relevant to its usefulness for big or small block. I mean, if they're small, then you do want the price to go up. And frankly, you need the price to go up if your blocks are only tiny. But when they're very, very big, you got a lot more flexibility on what the actual cost of the coin is. So that's there's that. Yep. I think that's it. I think that's all of our questions. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show. I'm going to check my private chat one more time. Thank you, Mr. Moon. Mr. Alex Moon has done a fantastic job being the executive producer on this episode. So thank you to him. And thank you to everybody for watching. I appreciate especially everybody who asked questions. You folks are a delight. So please like, subscribe, hit the alert bell, and remind all of your friends, foes, and family that we are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your extremely aerodynamic host, Mr. Kurt Wuckert Jr., wishing you well and hoping very much that we all decide to be good to each other. So thanks again. See you next week. Goodbye.
Industry-shifting ideas can start from individuals or people committed to solving global and industry issues. This is your chance to network with experts and connect with a future collaborator at the London Blockchain Conference. Throughout history, significant innovations have resulted from successful collaborations. In 1903, brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright made it possible for us to achieve our dream of flying. In 1977, Steve Jobs' marketing flair and Steve Wozniak's engineering magic helped jumpstart the personal computer revolution. In 1990, Tim Berners-Lee worked with systems engineer Robert Cailliau to pave the way for the World Wide Web. The world would look very different without the innovations of these incredible collaborations. Come to the London Blockchain Conference, where visionaries like yourself convene and create value partnerships that could lead to future collaboration and the next world-changing solution.